One of the best-selling cars in China, the Xpeng P7 Plus, which has now sold more than 50,000 in only a few months. It's really a very unique car, and I think people don't recognize how unique it is until for me, I didn't until I actually drove it. This is a liftback, and it's a big car. It's about as big as a Tesla Model S, but it's far more practical because it has an enormous liftback boot where you can literally put bicycles in. Shocking to me how practical this car is. However, some other information to me is, well, probably what you guys are most interested in. The battery, which is insane, the charging speed of this car, which is equally insane, and the performance. I got to test drive this car, and it was in China just a few weeks ago. I've got to say, it was already one of my favorite cars before I test drove it. I mean, that sounds kind of ridiculous, but I just love the practicality of the kind of vehicle like this. It looks like a sedan, but it's not. And after driving it, it might be my favorite Xpeng car outside of the X9 MPV. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. Here's my full review of the P7 Plus. All right, guys, so I'm here with the P7 Plus. About to test drive it. This is the most popular EV in China. If you want an EV that has the ability to drive itself and you don't have to drive. And as many of you would know, driving here in China is extremely stressful. The traffic is pretty crazy. Sometimes it doesn't seem to follow any real rules. It just sort of goes all over the place. You would think full self-driving wouldn't really work in that situation, but it does. So we're going to go out and test it now. And we're going to see how this full self-driving works here in China. I've got to say, I am just like a little bit nervous. I am just a slight little bit nervous because, I don't know, trusting a car in this situation is a bit different to, say, Australia, where the traffic's quite different and quite structured. So here's the car. And this is meant to be a right-hand drive car as well for other markets outside of China. I don't think it's this year, I think it's next year. So let's test out this full self-driving, see what the car drives around. I'm gonna drive around with just a little bit. I'm not technically legally allowed to drive, but just gonna do just a tiny little bit of driving. First of all, straight up, the full self-driving, tested it. It's okay. It's okay. It's not, to be honest, quite as good as I expected. This was the one disappointment with the car that I had. The full self-driving did disengage a fair few times during about 1 hour of driving. It probably disengaged every 5 to 10 minutes. Now, of course, your experience might differ depending on where you are. And Xpeng have done apparently some updates since I drove the car. So I'm sure it's been improved since then. Aside from that, everything else about this car is, well, pretty damn amazing. Xpeng actually just updated the car. It starts now at $28,000 for the base model, $30,000 for the mid-spec, and the luxury model is $32,000 US. Very affordable. But one key difference that this car has over the previous generation is the base model used to come with a lithium iron phosphate battery. It does not anymore. All three versions come with an undisclosed battery, but it's been changed. I don't know what chemistry it is. They haven't disclosed that information. But I can tell you this, it can charge at 530 kilowatt charging speed. So that means you can charge the battery in 12 minutes, 10 to 80% in 12 minutes. Now, of course, you need the right charger. However, even if you charge this, let's say you're in Australia, you're in Europe, wherever you are, even if you just charge this on a 350 kilowatt fast charger, you still could charge the car in around 15 to 16 minutes because it's going to hold a much higher peak charging rate for a much longer period of time. So this charging speed would be actually pretty damn incredible. Now, I didn't actually get to charge the car. It wasn't actually necessary because when I picked it up, it had a full battery, so I couldn't see this in action. But this is the same battery, I believe, that is now offered in most Xpeng cars, not the Mona, but all the other models, the P7, the X9, the G9, the G6, the G7, when that comes to market. All of them have the same battery, and that's had the same 800 volt architecture that allows charging from 10 to 80% in 12 minutes. What about size of the car? Well, it's quite a big car, and it looks big when you see it. Of course, it's not like an SUV. It's, it's a sedan, it's a liftback. It doesn't feel big on the roads. When I was driving it, I didn't feel like I was driving a big car. And I think this was actually the first car that I've ever driven in China on public roads. I've been to China a few times and driven cars on racetracks, but never on a public road. So I was a little bit thinking, I wonder how this is going to go. This is going to be interesting. People have told me, Chinese drivers can be a bit wild, can be sometimes quite aggressive. The driving there can be a bit scary. I didn't feel that way at all. I didn't feel intimidated. I felt it was totally fine. And at no point did I think, oh no, I'm going to have a crash. Now, I actually drove this a few times. I drove this during the daytime for about an hour, and then I drove it during the nighttime for about nearly 2 hours. And even at night, in peak hour traffic in Guangzhou, I had no issues driving the car at all. It was really nice, and I never even really thought, what am I doing? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? Am I in the right lane? I just found the car remarkably simple to drive and actually quite comfortable. I even parked it in a tight parking spot. It was underneath a building in the center of the city. I had to drive around, go around one of those underground car park spots where you drive around and around. Then I just drove it into a car park spot, and I didn't even use the automatic parking feature, which you can, but I just didn't think it was necessary. And I found it really quite easy to drive. Now, speaking of size, it's just over 5 meters long. So it's 5 meters and 30 centimeters. Yeah, basically a 5 meter long car. So it's a fair bit bigger than a BYD Seal or a Tesla Model 3. It's about 30 centimeters bigger, but it has a much bigger interior. This is one of the issues that I personally have with sedans. I probably wouldn't buy an electric sedan because of that problem where really you don't have much space to put stuff in the boot. You want to carry bikes, you want to carry surfboards. You kind of think, well, that's not even possible. I need a different car. I need roof racks, for example. This is different, this car. It really does look to me big enough that you could fit. If you took the front wheel off your bike, I reckon you really could fit it in the boot, no problems at all. You can definitely fit surfboards in the boot. It's extremely practical. I think it's actually got more boot space even than my Xpeng G6. This is one of my favorite features about this car, and it's one of the reasons I really like it. You can actually put a lot of stuff in the back. It's got a really big boot. Let's just have a look. There it is, little button there. So this is the boot space. So it's got quite a big boot space, as you can see. You can fit a lot of stuff in here. Let's see what's in here. Car cover. I see quite a big space in here too. Yep. So you fit a lot of stuff in there. Now, on the inside, it has two digital screens. One is right in front of the driver. It's a 10.25-inch instrument panel, and there is a separate 15.6-inch floating infotainment screen. The steering wheel has the same kind of outline. To be honest, I didn't think too hard about the steering wheel, but I did like the interior. The interior does feel luxurious. In fact, it feels far more luxurious than it should be for $28,000 US. You can really see why these are selling so incredibly well in China. Now, speaking of sales, Xpeng delivered 33,000 vehicles in March and then 35,000 vehicles in April. So that means I think for 6 successive months, they've delivered more than 30,000 cars. The P7 does make up a pretty big percentage. On average, Xpeng sales, 25% of their sales come from this car, the P7 Plus. One of the reasons is because it's full self-driving. Yeah, people see that as a big feature. It's apparently better than pretty much everyone else. But what this all means is that Xpeng sales so far this year, in the first 4 months of the year, have grown by 350% versus the first 4 months of last year. Now, getting back to the car, the model I had, it had 20-inch wheels. It had Xiaopi, which is kind of a voice assistant that works really well for Chinese people. They say it's amazing.
So I think, hey, Xiaopi.
这个小 P 还不会哦。
导航去希尔顿欢朋酒店。
好的，我们去第几个？
第一个。
Okay.
嘿，小 P。
我在。
导航去悦景超市。
好的，我们去第几个？
第一个。
准备出发
OK
全程600米，大约需要2分钟。
Okay, I'm just going to go short distance to begin with.
在道路尽头右转，进入华关路。
In Australia, the voice assistant doesn't really work. I wouldn't worry about using it. But in China, it's incredible. It's rated the #1 voice assistant tech in the country. And the person I was driving with, she often would ask questions and it would give accurate responses. It was pretty damn remarkable. So the voice control can be used to control most of the car's functions, which are also controllable through the touchscreen. Both passenger and driver seats and rear seats have heating, ventilation, and massage functions. And there is a 2.1 square meter panoramic roof, a really big glass roof. So it feels extremely airy on the inside. The upholstery is Napa leather. It's not, that fake vegan leather. It's really, the seats are incredibly comfortable. Mounted on each rear door next to the button to open the windows is another button to electrically control the rake of the seat. The least amount of headspace, which was with the seats fully up, was about a 2-finger gap for me. And I'm about 1.81 meters tall. So yeah, there's quite a lot of space in the back. There's plenty of space, to be honest, for even fairly tall males. Now, Xpeng says the car has a double 1 meter seating space with a front seat seating space of about 956 millimeters. Don't know if that means anything to you, but yeah, it's got plenty of space for large adults in the back and in the front. Now, one other thing that I noticed is that there is an LCD display mounted on the back of the center console, very similar to Tesla, like the Tesla Model 3 and the Model Y. You get a screen for the passengers at the back, and it can run many different features, music, your air conditioning, a range of different features. I didn't play with it too much, though. The car actually has a 7.14 panoramic surround sound system with 20 speakers, and it's really quite a good sound system. I listened to it for probably, I'd say, about an hour and a half, and I don't know, I just, for some reason, I felt like I hadn't, this is going to sound really weird, but I felt like the music was the best I've ever heard. Now, this might just be that I felt good. I felt like I was enjoying driving the car. I don't know, but I've never said this before on the channel, guys, but I really, really enjoyed hearing the music. And there was a playlist on in the car, and I'm thinking, hey, I like this music. This is pretty cool. Whoever's music this is, kudos to them. And I really enjoyed listening to it. Now, the tailgate is electric and it opens up a large space. Xpeng CEO actually unloaded a P7 packed with 33 20-inch suitcases. 33 20-inch suitcases. So it has 725 litres of trunk space with the seats up. Seats down, it's got 2,221. Guys, 725 litres of trunk space is more than basically SUVs that size. Most SUVs this size have less trunk space than that. That's pretty damn remarkable. Now, I should point out that the P7 Plus was the first car that Xpeng removed LiDAR from. They're going with almost a very similar system to Tesla. It's vision only, but it's a little different to Tesla because it does use some sensors. Interestingly, Xpeng was the first company to use LiDAR on a car, period. Crazy. And they're the first company to also remove it. And they were the first company to start using HD maps as part of their autonomous driving system, and the first company to stop using HD maps. So they're really going down that Tesla route, but with adding extra sensors in order to kind of back up the vision. Now, as I said earlier, I found the XNG GP system did disengage a few times, but I was in a busy city, and I'm sure that experiences would differ depending on the person. I don't really know, but yeah, that was my experience. For input, though, the system has a total of 26 sensors. These consist of 11 cameras, 3mm wave radars, and 12 ultrasonic sensors. It also uses Xpeng's new Orin, basically full self-driving chip, and that's their own self-developed chip, which is meant to be able to handle incredible compute power. And it's the sort of thing that they're similar to Tesla, where they're continuing to do updates and upgrading their full self-driving. Even my car here in Australia, I've received over-the-air updates, I think, once a month. It's pretty impressive. For example, guys, I saw that there was a recall 3 days ago for a Hyundai car, the brand new Ioniq 5N, which costs about $120,000 here in Australia. They said it needs an over-the-air update and you've got to go to your dealership. So There's a big difference between cars that can do an over-the-air update at home and you don't even know about it. It just does it automatically using the internet. You just press OK and off it goes. Versus having to take the absolute pain in the ass of driving to your dealership, making an appointment, leaving the car there for hours. What do you do while it's at the dealership? Then picking it up. It's a waste of an entire day. So it's a big advantage that this car has versus other cars saying they have over-the-air updates, which they don't. They're just it's false advertising. And then, finding out every time you need to do an over-the-air update, you've got to drive to the dealership. So it's one big thing. One big benefit I've found from personally owning an Xpeng car. Now, when it comes to driving, it's kind of interesting. It has sport, comfort, and standard. And I use sport in all Xpengs that I drive. If I can read the menu system, it's not in Chinese, I will put it in sport. And in this case, I set the car, right? I set it to English language, which is cool that you can do that in China, and I set it to sport. And that's just my preference. I find that that's the best option. I also set the regen braking. There was no regen braking turned on at all. It's very weird. I got in the car and thinking, it's an electric car. It feels like I'm driving a car with no regen. This is strange. So I stopped, put it on, and put the full regen on, and it drove just basically like full one pedal driving. That's the way it felt to me. Now you can get different options. The base model comes with a 200 kilowatt motor. That's a 200 kilowatt rear motor. And if you pay more for that mid-spec $30,000, it's a 230 kilowatt motor. And it's capable of doing 0 to 100 in 5.9 seconds. It's not super fast, but it's certainly fast enough. When I put my foot down, I felt like it was probably similar. I actually felt like it was slightly faster than my Xpeng G6. They're meant to be about the same speed, but I felt like the P7 Plus was slightly faster. Well, what about suspension? Well, apparently, I didn't look at it myself, but it has double wishbone suspension, and at the rear, it has 5-link suspension. So it's more of a geared for comfort, but honestly, I felt like it wasn't wafty. It wasn't boaty. Some SUVs and some cars in China can be very boaty and wafty, and I don't like that kind of handling. To me, it didn't feel like that. It felt like, it actually felt similar to drive to my Xpeng G6, which is, I think, a good combination of being soft enough to feel comfortable, but having enough handling that you don't feel like you're going around a corner, you're getting all this body roll, and it just makes you feel sick. So it wasn't like that at all. So in terms of range, the base model version comes with a 61 kilowatt hour battery pack. Now this is the previous gen. It was just updated. I think it's the same size. That's meant to give it a 620 kilometer range, CLTC. So around about 520 kilometers WLTP. The mid-spec, my test car, had a 76.3 kilowatt hour battery pack, which gives it 710 kilometers of range, so about 610 WLTP, or probably nearly 400 miles. And it's actually gets probably close to that actual range. I think range in these cars is pretty damn impressive. Energy consumption is remarkably low. It's extremely efficient. It's as low as 11.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. I'm going to say real world because my experience, it was getting 13 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Very similar to a Tesla Model 3. Really, really good efficiency. Xpeng uses a high efficiency thermal management system and a new electric drive system, which has improved efficiency in order to get this kind of range. And I think the new model that I drove actually has a little bit, I think it has about 5% better efficiency than the previous model and therefore approximately 5% more range. So to sum up, you can really see why this car is selling so incredibly well in China. Having driven one, would I want to own one of these cars? Honestly, yeah, I would. The fact that you can get a car that is good, doesn't feel like a big SUV, but has the boot space of a big SUV, has this much range at this price point, and this kind of performance, this kind of charging speed, there's really not much that I can think of on the market that competes with this. I can't think of anything really, to be honest, in this price range that's this luxurious and has this kind of actual performance, range, charging speed, boot space. I'm struggling to think of anything, guys. If you can think of something that rivals this, that's similar to this at this price point, please either email me or put a comment in the comment section below because I'm struggling to get to it. So my verdict, honestly, I'd give this car probably a 9 out of 10. I want to start doing this for my reviews now. 9 out of 10 overall. The self-driving system, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. The practicality for a sedan, it's literally a 9.9 out of 10. It's incredibly practical. The interiors sitting in the car, how it feels in terms of luxury, luxury for the money, I'd honestly give it a 10 out of 10. It's just absolutely outstanding. Sound system, for me, it was a 10 out of 10. The handling of the car, probably an 8.5 out of 10. I'm definitely more of a sporty car type driver, but this wasn't sporty, but I think it was still a pretty good overall compromise. So that's my end score, guys. In future, I will have a score for all of my test drives, reviews, and if I can, I'll also take the cars to a racetrack and test them. That's the plan for the channel going forward. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Bye-bye.